Welcome back to Trailblaze. This is Jamal Simmons.
I'm Nayyera. This is a show about the America that we are becoming.
All right, I'm excited about this week's episode because I've been waiting to talk to Nayyera all week about all of the things that are going on right now. We're all following the news. We're seeing what's happening. We're a few weeks out from Election Day. The polls are moving, but they're still not all the way there. And you keep hearing people talk about this concept. We all think we know what it is, but they talk about it all the time. It's about the Electoral College. And what is the Electoral College, and why is the battleground so important? These battleground state polls, the battleground state numbers, why is this so important for this election? So we're going to talk about this today. Right, Nayyera?
I mean, Jamal, it is this weird message that we get that every vote counts, make sure you vote, but then you hear in the news attention focused on states like Pennsylvania and Nevada and Arizona, and it's actually all part of a bigger plan of how the powers that be, the powers that know how things really work, precinct by precinct, have, as you call it, playing the system, but not really playing it fair.
Yeah, totally. And so we're going to have a great conversation today also with a really good friend of ours, Christina Reynolds. Christina Reynolds, who is at Emily's List today, has been all over the Democratic Party. She's worked for candidates that you have heard of. Some of them you haven't heard of, but she's worked for a lot of candidates, a lot of women, and she knows a lot about how the system works. So I'm excited to talk to Christina. I think you are too.
I am. And Jamal, I did want to make sure that we also talked a little bit about what's actually been happening, right? Because it's not as if the election being only 40 some odd days away, everything is set and good to go. I mean, there's voting underway in many states, early voting, yet people are still trying to challenge the rules. In Arizona, the Republican Party is like, oh, you 100,000 voters, we don't think your citizenship records are up to date. Sorry.
Yeah. So, all right. So exactly what we're hearing is all these states that everybody's talking about in the battleground. We're also finding out that it looks like Donald Trump and the MAGA forces on the Republican side are just trying to work the refs. They're trying to work the system, change the rule of the game before the actual election day. So we don't really know how things are going to shake out. And then they try to win this game in overtime and work these refs. So you've got Arizona and Georgia on last Friday. Georgia's election board, let me just read this so I get it right. Mm-hmm. On Friday, Georgia's election board ruled that ballots must be hand counted by local precincts in spite of concerns from election officials and opposition from some state officials. The board ruled 3-2 to require ballots to be hand counted on top of the already occurring machine count. The decision came with less than 50 days before Election Day. Even prominent Republicans, such as Georgia's Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, had raised concerns in the past over the hand counting of ballots. This is going to take forever. It's going to be a mess. Who knows how exact the hand counts are going to be? There's always a little bit of fuzz in the hand counts. But this is just to create enough chaos for the Trump forces to be able to argue something in court and keep this election played out till January.
And it ties back to Georgia being the place that Trump called and said, hey, find me, 10,000, 12,000 more votes. Like, help me out here, buddy, right? Because he was looking at which states he could win. Arizona also got under his skin because that was the first state that ended up being called by Fox News that started the slide towards Biden winning. So a lot of this is part of Trump's psychology, but it goes much bigger than that. Every state that we're starting to see where these challenges are coming, where they're trying to limit voting, not give more people the ability to vote, but limit voting, they're all states with significant minority populations.
That's right. And so as we're thinking about how America's changing, right, the America we're becoming, what you're seeing is there are some states that are the anchor states for this change that's occurring, right? These states, particularly along the Sun Belt, so many more of us live in places like California, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, even Texas, Louisiana, Georgia, into North Carolina. So all these states that are now what's considered to be battlegrounds or right on the bubble of the battleground are states with considerable Latin American, Latino American, South Asian, African American, big populations of people of color. And we're also starting to see, because of the way things are changing, a lot of college-educated whites who have maybe made some money, decided to move after COVID to some place that's a little bit more spacious for their family. They've moved to places like Florida and Georgia and North Carolina in order to have a different kind of a lifestyle. So the country's changing a lot, and we're seeing it happen in these battleground states.
And while we're seeing it play out in voting, let's not forget that there's a whole machine that was well before this election was even underway about making sure that the Republican Party or Donald Trump or only certain types of people were able to vote freely. And this is why I'm really excited that Christina is going to be joining us in just a moment, because she's going to help us understand this idea of where votes count and what does a path to victory actually look like for someone like Kamala Harris.
Yeah, the Electoral College is one of these things that we've kind of wrestled back and forth with about a lot over the last few years, because Democrats have won has won the popular vote in many of these elections, in every national election since 1992, except for George W. Bush's reelect in 2004. So the question is, do we really want a system where the majority of American voters are the ones who choose the leader? Or are we trying to have a system where it's gamed just a little bit so that people who maybe aren't in the majority still get to retain power? And as we really wrestle through America over the next 250 years, because here's the thing, this is 2024. And 2026 is going to be the 250th anniversary of the United States of America. The person we choose to be president this November will be the president of the United States at our 250th birthday. They won't just be looking backwards. This is the person who will be charting the course for the next 250 years of this country. And do we want that person to be somebody who thinks in the 1950s or the 1920s or the 1890s with robber barons and women don't get to vote and black people are being segregated? Do we think that this is the person that ought to be the leader of this country at that moment? I just don't think so.
Oh, well, Jamal, there are plenty of people who still do.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. All right. Well, next we're going to talk to our good friend, Christina Reynolds, and we're going to bring her in right now. Christina, how are you? Christina Reynolds is a political strategist and communications professional. I'm going to say a little bit about you. She currently serves as the Senior Vice President of Communications and Content at Emily's List, the nation's largest resource dedicated to electing Democratic pro-choice women. How's that? But before that, she's been everywhere. The Obama administration, the Democratic Communications Director for Barack Obama's 2012 re-election campaign. Were you at the DCCC at one point, or am I making that up?
I was at the DCCC in 2005 and 2006.
See?
Which some of us may remember is when we took the House back. We made Nancy Pelosi Speaker for the first time. So, yeah.
I'm seeing a thread here in your trajectory where you really just, women leaders, different types of leaders, like you seem to be drawn to helping those folks get into power.
I am a big fan of helping women leaders. I will say I worked for Hillary Clinton, and it did open my eyes a little to the challenges that women face, which are, I think, unique in politics. And I've been so grateful to be at Emily's List and then to be there during this crazy 13 weeks or so when the world changed and when, knock on all the wood, I think we're going to make some history. And it's going to be very exciting. But I am drawn to, Democratic leaders. I'm drawn to sometimes the underdogs, but people who have good fights to fight. So.
Yeah. We worked together on the Obama campaign, and that was certainly one where all sorts of different issues of identity popped up in politics.
Yes. Just a few.
Yeah, just a few.
Christina, where are you from? I just trying to remember that. Where are you from?
So I am a Marine brat. I am the daughter of a Marine and a teacher, which it impacts my politics quite a bit. And so I lived everywhere. But I like to say I get to choose my hometown because I moved so much. Yeah. And I choose North Carolina, the whole state, as my hometown. And, we're a battleground state this year. So it's pretty exciting to get to talk about that.
Yeah, you've been in and out of that place. Yeah, it is exciting. Look, I'm happy to have you here because there are very few people in Democratic politics who've done all the many things you've done, but also have a good head on your shoulders, right? Like somebody who's not, who's not just going to come at it from, a really esoteric place. I will tell people though, you also are one of the rare people who, those of us who are in comms and press, who are like the mouthpiece of the campaign. Christina's one of the people who did a lot of the research. And so you're like the brain of the campaign.
Yeah.
And I used to always say when I worked for candidates, listen to the candidate, trust the research.
Yeah. It's good advice. It's good advice. I like to think we keep people truthy, right?
Yes.
And I am very, in a world in which facts don't seem to matter, I think that voters still want to hear what you actually stand for and still want to seek out the truth. So my research ties remain strong. And I still believe in the facts and the truth. So,
well, I'm glad that someone does, and somebody who actually understands the math along with the truth, which is part of what we were hoping you could help everybody understand today, right?
Yes.
There is election math, which is independent of this idea of every vote counting. And it does. I think the idea of voting in aggregate and seeing what you can do to make change is great. But, because Electoral College,
yes,
some places matter more than others. And you were just talking about how the Nebraska issue right now is front and center about and pointing out the reality of what the Electoral College means.
Yeah, it's, for those who missed it, the Republicans tried to argue Nebraska is one of 2 states in this country that actually that divide their electoral votes based on their congressional districts. And so you can split the state effectively. And what has happened recently is the area in Omaha tends to be a more Democratic area. And so Democrats pick up an electoral seat there in what is traditionally viewed and historically been a red state. So that's really important because there you go, there's Nebraska. Because in the eminent wisdom of our founding fathers, they set us up with an electoral college that has an even number of electoral votes. So you could end up with a tie. Anyone who's watched Veep probably understands this better than we learned in history.
Watch Veep. I lived Veep. Okay,
I know. It's true. It's true. But I think, so what happens is you get the electoral votes by state, except in Nebraska and Maine. And in Nebraska, because Democrats pick up that one vote, because the math, it's not that hard to get to the math where that one vote gets Kamala Harris to 270, Donald Trump said, aha, we need to change this then, and put pressure on Nebraska legislators and the Nebraska congressional delegation to change it so that Nebraska was a winner-take-all state. And my argument is, you believe in winner-take-all? Let's make the whole country winner-take-all, right? Let's say the candidate with the most votes wins the presidency, which historically, by the way, in the last few cycles has not always been the case. Some may remember when Hillary Clinton won millions more votes and narrowly lost the Electoral College. We could be looking at the same thing. Kamala Harris is expected. Again, you got to come out and vote, right? Nothing is given. You have to actually make the votes. Polls don't vote. But Kamala Harris is widely expected to win the popular vote. The question will be likely a handful of votes across what are considered the sort of 7 battleground states.
And the truth is, you mentioned Hillary Clinton's in 2016, but Al Gore in 2000, right? The Democrats have won the popular vote in every election since 1992, except for George W. Bush's reelection in 2004. So this is clearly tilted against the majority of the country. But what's funny, when you listen to Republicans talk about this, I was with a Republican pollster at an event maybe 10 days ago, and he said to me, or he said to this group, well, if you take out New York and California, Republicans win the popular vote.
If you don't count the votes that I don't like, then we win, right? It's easy.
Like those people aren't
state, right? Let's just
like those people aren't American.
Take out the entire Western Seaboard that we call one state, which it happens to be one of the top economies of the world on its own. Just let's not talk about that or count that.
Millions
but there's a different way.
Yeah, and by the way, I mean those people are Americans.
100%.
So let's not.
They are voters. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there's based on how some of the conversation is going, just being a legal American may not be good enough anymore. But we'll get to that a little bit later. Some of what's being said in the election circuit right now. Christina, what is then the math or what they call the path to victory for Kamala Harris? Like, what states does she need?
So we talk about a number of different states when we talk about the path to victory. And if you consider that all but those 7 sort of fall where they have fallen in the last few elections, then there are a couple of paths to victory for Kamala Harris. The first is what is sometimes called the blue wall. These are states that prior to Hillary Clinton had gone Democratic for decades. And that's Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. And it is worth noting in 2016.
Wait, we said Wisconsin?
Wisconsin. There you go. Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania.
And Michigan.
Michigan. So that's the blue wall.
Yes, that's the blue wall. And it is worth noting that those states, if I believe it's somewhere along the lines of 66,000 votes across those states had flipped in 2016, Hillary Clinton would have been president. 66,000 sounds like a large number. It's not. I want to break that down. And if you follow, you should, the state party chairs in these districts, Ben Wickler in these states, Ben Wickler is the Wisconsin chair. And he's noted, I believe it only would have required 1 or 2 votes a precinct in Wisconsin to flip. And Donald Trump would have won Wisconsin in
and for context, a precinct is essentially the one polling station that we all go to, right? So
that's correct.
Where you go to vote, if one person,
yes,
that's it.
Yes,
and it could be your neighbor.
Yep.
Then Wisconsin would have gone for Hillary.
So when you think about that, that's not that much. It's why you'll see there's a lot of attention in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania has the most electoral votes of all of these 7 states.
How many does it have?
It has 19.
So 19. Okay.
And so that's considered, Pennsylvania is considered the ball game, but I'm going to tell you can get to the math a number of different ways. But Pennsylvania is a big state. And the challenge here with these states are, if you look at them, by the way, all 3 have Democratic governors doing great work. 2 of the 3 currently have a trifecta. The legislature, Michigan and Pennsylvania, the legislatures and the governors are Democrats, and they have done great things with that, right? Gretchen Whitmer and that Michigan legislature did amazing progressive work, including protecting abortion rights, right? They've taken those majorities and they've done good stuff with them. And they remind people of that good work. Whitmer, Shapiro, still and I believe Governor Evers, very popular in their states. And so that's a good thing for us. Hopefully reminds people of the good work Democrats can do. Wisconsin is a little different in that the legislature is Republican. And so they have a split, little things are a little different there. But in all of those states, you have different areas. You have some that are very rural that tend to be more Republican. You have some that are suburban and urban. So, you've got a Milwaukee, and then you've got a Madison, which is a college town. You've got Detroit, and then you've got broader rural areas that are more conservative. You've got that split really across all of these 7 states. And so where they focus their votes, where you get turnout and where you can minimize the loss, it happens in different areas. It's why we're seeing different stops for the different parts of the ticket. So you may have Kamala Harris in Detroit, but for example, tomorrow the reproductive bus tour is in Grand Rapids. You go to different areas and try and hit those media markets. So that's the blue wall. Right now, polls are all over the place. And I like to remind people, polls are a snapshot in time. They are a guess, right? You're extrapolating from several hundred to 1,000 people what you think millions of people will do. But fundamentally, they're what people are saying right now that they think they will do in 6 weeks or in less in the case of early vote. And so we have to go make it happen, right?
Yeah, well, as opposed to, right,
polls,
like how they actually feel when it's raining outside, potentially snowing, or, something came up at work.
That's
and this idea of the building up the enthusiasm to go vote. All right. So continuing though with this.
So that's one path.
Yeah. One path.
Yep. I think some of the pundits would tell you that Pennsylvania is thought to be the tightest of the 3 of those, the one that is most likely to flip back to Trump. And that's a loss because obviously that's 19 electoral votes. Because I believe if she wins that blue wall and she wins Omaha, which thankfully Nebraska is keeping, the way it is. If she wins all of those, she gets 270, which is exactly what she needs. So,
that's an interesting case, the Nebraska case. So, I was with Jane Klebb recently, and we were talking this through, and obviously reading a bunch about it. But the state senator McDonnell, who is the one who did not go with the Republicans to change the seat to a winner take all process, was a former Democrat. Right. So according to Jane, who's the chair of the of the Nebraska Democratic Party, according to Jane, he flipped mostly because of questions around abortion and so some social issues kind of got him to flip. But he was lifelong Democrat. So this guy flipped, but he stuck with the Democrats on this question about how this get resolved. And what he said when he was asked was like, we may want to change this in the future, but doing it this close to Election Day isn't right. Now, what I understand from other sources is that it's not just that he's doing the right thing. This guy also wants to run for mayor of Omaha. And Omaha is what? A majority Democratic city.
Yes. Well, so as a Republican, probably likes that they actually get to have an impact here.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So if you want to run for mayor of Omaha, the one thing you don't want to do is reduce the power of the Democrats in the majority in the city that you might want to govern.
And that gets to the broader point, though, right? That it's even in states where New York is going to go blue. Wyoming is going to go red, right? Like these are just some givens. Even in those states, though, there's down ballot tickets where that's where the individual votes, especially again the precinct, who shows up in your neighborhood, that piece matters. All right, so back to the math. Okay. Say she doesn't get Pennsylvania, then what?
Well, I'm here to tell you that we're going to win North Carolina, and that is going to be a part of the path. You heard it here.
I'm co-signing this with you.
You're co-signing? Okay.
Yeah.
Let me give you.
If you put your chips on the table, I'm going to put my chips next to yours.
You're going to be next to me. I appreciate that, Jamal. Let me give you my rationale here. First of all, North Carolina was the closest state that Joe Biden lost in 2020. He lost it by somewhere around 75,000 votes, which sounds like a lot. In North Carolina, it is about 1.4%. And it's a smaller percent now because North Carolina is one of the states that grew during COVID. A lot of people moved here. We have a lot of industry. We have a lot going on in this. You got the beaches, you got the mountains. I will do the tourism ad later, but you've got a fairly low cost of living and a great state to live in. I live here right now, so
Democrats did their convention. They did a convention there for this reason.
2012. That's right.
So can I put a little demographic? Can I put some demographic sauce on what you just said? What we've also seen, you should read, there's a great piece by Domenico Montanaro from NPR who looked at who moved and from what states did they move and what are they how do they line up? And I thought one part that was great. I mean, 10,000 people from California and X number of people from New York who've moved to North Carolina. A lot of them have moved there. They work in the finance industry, right around Charlotte. They work in the Research Triangle area, right?
A lot of tech growing there, pharma,
Absolutely. And so what you're seeing are college-educated whites who are moving from perhaps more progressive states into a state like North Carolina for lifestyle and family reasons and financial reasons, work, employment reasons.
And now throw in the Central American. There's a Central American population there too. You might know better the indicators of what's attracted migrants to North Carolina, but it's a significant enough population that you look at this and you're like, oh, you're not near the border, so why do you care about immigration?
Yeah, but and so what's happening though is interesting. I want to stick on the non-college, the college-educated whites for a second. That is a population that Democrats over the last two or three cycles have become much better at. You can probably tell us better than we can. And so you're better able to compete among those voters. And as North Carolina has a greater percentage of the state that fits that demographic, Democrats have a greater chance, as well as a big African-American vote, which is interesting because unlike Georgia, which we all think of in, Joe Biden won in 2020, had a larger African-American population, but Georgia's a little bit of an aberration. College-educated whites still tend to vote more conservative in Georgia than they vote more progressive. So in North Carolina, you kind of have two big populations to campaign in versus Georgia, where you're really trying to do a turnout game and shave in a bunch of places.
You do, and Nayyera's point, you also have a growing Latino population. We're specifically focused on the women because I work at Emily's List, but so that's point number 2. Point number 3 that I will give you is I believe abortion is how Democrats are going to win this election. It is a major issue, and what I'm going to tell you is North Carolina is a state where, because one legislator flipped parties, Republicans got a supermajority, and over Governor Cooper's veto, they passed, and then were able to finalize a new abortion ban. It is incredibly unpopular in this state. What is popular in this state is Governor Cooper, who won when Hillary didn't, and won re-election again when Biden didn't win the state. Governor Cooper went around and campaigned on this bill, on stopping the ban, on calling your legislators, on doing all the things. Governor Cooper does the work. This is someone who knows Kamala Harris personally, who really tells the story well. And he talks about abortion. I will tell you, again, I work for a lady group. So I don't talk about the dudes that often, but what I can tell you is what's a really great thing is to hear an old rural Southern white guy talk about abortion in very compelling terms. And he brings people in. So I think that's going to matter. Governor Cooper's work is going to matter. We have a state party chair who is 26 years old, which I got to tell you makes me sad when I say it. But she has phenomenal energy. She also has she comes from a rural area. She is a field organizer, and she has, with the help of obviously the Harris campaign and the party, they have built the biggest field operation this state has seen since 2008, which, as Nayyera will remember, because I used to ask about it every day on the Obama campaign won. It's the last time Democrats won North Carolina federally. So we have that going for us.
But now you're there. Now you're there, Christina.
Now
That's
I'm
make
here.
All the difference.
I know. That's all the difference. Let me tell you one more thing, which is I mentioned we lost it by 75,000 votes. I heard a thing today. Our primary was after Nikki Haley dropped out of the race. She still got 250,000 votes in the Republican primary.
So 250,000
Republicans who, at a point when she was no longer running, still wanted to say not Trump. And so those are people who I think are open to potentially considering. And when you consider, considering the Democrats, considering Kamala Harris, and when you consider what just happened this past week at the top of our ticket with the governor, I think this state is in a different space. And I think you can see it by the visits. So that would be 16 electoral votes.
That's what I say. But you're missing the 3. You're still missing 3 that you would have got.
So what that means is basically what happens is if you lose Pennsylvania, you have to win Nevada and one other one. So, or you can win any 2, but Nevada, which is a little smaller.
Georgia or Arizona, right?
Yes. There's Nevada. And Nevada has fewer electoral votes.
How many is Nevada?
6.
Thank you.
6.
Now, Nevada
plus something else.
I spent a lot of time in Vegas doing electoral math. I was there doing electoral math.
Yes.
Vegas, Nevada in general, yet again, huge Senate race. We feel good about right now. That's Jackie Rosen. We've got a lot of electoral stuff happening. Fun fact about Nevada, it is the only state in this entire country with majority women legislature, which is, we are a majority of the voters, but there's only one, and it's Nevada. It is a purple down the middle state,
US senators.
And 2 women senators. That's right. It is a purple state, but it is one where the campaign is certainly doing the work, and we feel good about it.
Okay.
All right, so Christina,
polls, right? Yes.
So Christina, we're going to have to go, but I want to ask you one question before we go, because this is, I think, a big question. I hear this all the time when I'm talking to family members, when I'm talking at events. People want to know the question. Answer this question. What's happening with the white women? Right?
Oh,
so 2016,
we're the worst.
Hillary Clinton wasn't able. No, listen, some of my best friends are white women.
Sure.
But Hillary Clinton in 2016, Donald Trump wins more white women in 2020 than he does in 2016. Are we on track to see that trend
No.
continue in 2024, or have we gone back? Are we
No,
turning the corner?
a couple things. No, I think, we will still see not as many as I would like, but I think that Dobbs changed everything. I think that what we have seen for suburban women, for independent women, for those white college educated women, they understand what's at stake now. We saw this in our polling at Emily's list was, you tell people Donald Trump could overturn Roe, and they think that's a bad idea, but they don't vote on it because they don't believe it.
Yeah.
When it happened, they were like, uh-oh. And now they have a better sense of what's happening. That's impacting Republicans. This is the reason that Donald Trump is trying to convince people he won't actually sign, no worries. This is the reason you have Republicans doing the same thing. The polling is real. The change is dramatic. And I think that when we keep hammering this issue, voters, white women, that it helps quite a bit.
Awesome. Great. So this was great. We had a little electoral math. We answered one of the big hovering questions over the electorate. We got to spend some time with our good friend, Christina Reynolds. Thank you for being here.
Great to see you all. Sorry for so much North Carolina, but come visit me. You
We
can
love
see
that
for yourself.
place. I like, I'm one of the people who loves North Carolina barbecue sauce. It's a controversial topic, this North Carolina barbecue sauce.
Well,
Vinegar
there's,
versus...
there's even two types of barbecue here. So you got to, these are tough choices that you have to make.
I know. I like to go do a taste test. We'll have to come down there and
come on down
and do it together. All right. Thank you so much.
Jamal, this is what I found so fascinating about the election math that Christina was talking about, and how it connects back to what we were just talking about, the browning of America. The idea that we have 41 million new voters. By this election, the majority of the voting population will actually be under the age of 45. It always used to be, seniors vote and young people don't. But Taylor Swift overnight registered 300,000 voters. I doubt they were in their 50s, right? So this new population that we have, and it's more brown. America is going to be majority minority by 2040. All of that is playing into which states are being focused on to limit access to the ballots. It's this idea of immigration in North Carolina, of Latino votes in Nevada and Arizona. It's all connected.
Yeah, it's absolutely all connected. And I got to tell you, it's one of the things that worries me, right? Because as the country changes, we've never really seen a democracy that's gone through this kind of diversification at the same time. And as the country changes, there are people who are really bought into the old America. It's like, the old America, we just can't quit you, right? This idea that, this 1950s Harriet, Ozzie and Harriet America. I didn't even watch Ozzie and Harriet, even in reruns. But I've seen these images of, the little family, like sitting at the table, doing whatever with the house coat. Like, this is not the America that most people have grown up in, and we just don't know it. I mean, I always think about the 1950s and 60s. The only diversity on television at that point, other than like, I don't know, Amos and Andy or something, was Lucy and Desi, right? Was I Love Lucy show.
Yeah.
And on that show, it was an interracial marriage, but they never kissed, and they didn't even sleep in the same bed. Right? So they were only really married like it's some big concept.
And Desi Arnaz today would be checking the box white Hispanic, right? When you have like the ethnicity, which one are you? Like, clearly that's a Cuban American thing that he'd be doing. It's, how we count people, how we judge people, how we self-identify, all of that does play out. And of course it's playing out in our politics. The one that really got me from this week, and I mentioned it in our conversation with Christina, JD Vance, right? Really like riled up at this rally, and he talks about whether legal migrants or illegal. He's like, you know what? I don't even care if they're legal.
Right.
I'm just like, oh, I'm sorry, what? Sorry, man married to a South Asian woman, say what? Like, oh, you said it out loud. What we have all kind of heard in the undertone or the signaling, which is it really is about maintaining a very particular look about America and not about the legality of how people are actually getting here.
And just remember, the guy that Vance works for, Donald Trump, has been saying this for years. People just didn't think he was really serious about what he was saying. One of the first things he did when he was in office was the ban at the airports, right? Was the travel ban. The second thing that he did when he was in office was that the child separations on the border, when he was putting kids in cages on the border, and there were people who were like showing up, yelling at those of us who were unhappy about it, saying that we were wrong, right, for being upset that we were separating kids at the border. And Donald Trump said he wanted to limit immigration from what he called shithole countries. Those shithole countries happen to be places where black and brown people lived. Mm-hmm. And he wanted more immigration from places like Norway. Interesting. Less from Somalia, more from Norway.
Well, so let's fact check a little bit of Donald Trump there. Of the immigrant populations in the United States, the population that has contributed most to the economy with high salaries, the highest educated population, Nigerian Americans. It's actually not, people think Indian Americans, they're up there on the list, but it's Nigerian. And he banned migrants from that country, right? Somali immigrants, many gathered in Minnesota. It's leading to the diversity and, right, the democracy of Minnesota. That's why he was triggered by Somalia. So these are all come back to the idea of how America looks, but also what could potentially keep a certain class in power for the future because they're afraid of where the population is actually going.
So at the end of the day, Nayyera, I think from our conversation with Christina, from the stories that we've talked about today, this is a real question about how we wrestle through this election to make sure every American's vote counts, and that people of color in particular have their votes counted, and that we aren't embarking upon some second Jim Crow type style governing, where we are limiting people's ability to have their votes counted in some of the most important ways in the most important elections. I think that's what the Trump forces are up to.
And I will just end it with this thought then, Jamal, that voting is the most fundamental right that we are given in the Constitution. This is the way that we are told that we are able to elect the people who will help govern and keep us together. So yeah, every vote counts, and we should make it easier for people to access the ballot and be heard.
All right. Well, I want you to be heard on this particular podcast every week. So I want people to listen. Tell some friends about it. Come and check us out. We are here to keep talking about this. So tell all your friends to come and check out Trailblaze.
And don't forget, give us a good review if you liked it.